Okay, hello. Let us know if you can hear us, please. If you can give us a thumbs up or a yes in the chat, we'd appreciate it. We're not sure if the technical issue we think we're having is happening
Good
until,
morning. Good morning.
let's see.
Yeah.
Can you hear us? Are we on? Yes. Okay. Thank you, Ricardo. All right. Woohoo. Good
Oh, boy.
morning.
We stayed away too long, and the technology is saying, hey, don't ever do that again.
I know. Well, yeah, sorry. Yeah, we did do a few pre-recorded episodes there a few weeks in a row, but we are live again today. We're excited to be here with you. So good
Yeah.
morning, everyone. So hi, Ricardo. Hi, Maze. Hey, hi, Headley. All right. Keep saying good morning to us. I will quickly do an introduction for those of you who may be new to NuSpecies. So NuSpecies is a natural health company. Aston invented our formulas a long time ago. We officially incorporated in 2007, so it's been 18
2 decades,
years.
more than 2 decades ago.
Yes, but a long time ago, Aston invented our raw, organic, liquid, powerful herbal formulas and whole food supplements.
Boy, we have been around for a while.
Yes, and they were all designed to help your body be resilient against some of the toughest of health challenges. Our mission here at NuSpecies is to help you live longer and better, just as we want for ourselves. We want to help you do too. But that journey looks different for all of us. A good health decision for me may not be a good health decision for you. So every Saturday at 10 a.m., we answer your questions to the best of our ability to help you continue along your own unique health journey. So thank you so much for being here today. We're glad to be back alive with all of you. And our agenda is your agenda. So feel free to, no matter what we're talking about, to put your questions into the chat. You can comment on whatever we're saying.
In the meantime, if you have family members and friends who have health issues, and even if they're healthy, we're going to talk about disease, genesis, and progression, our metabolism. So we're going to talk about for a little bit. So if everyone out there wants to know what's going on in their bodies, disease genesis, the beginning, and its progression to the two worst diseases on the earth, old age or aging, and cancer, two worst diseases. And by the way, they're related, intimately related. So we're going to talk about metabolism today.
Yes. So the idea, and if you read my email or you read the notifications that I sent, I was talking about the root cause of disease.
Yep.
And many of you have heard us say this over and over again.
What does it mean?
And we know that you conceptually get it. It makes sense to you that, right, I've been dealing with symptoms for so long. When I see my doctor, their treatments are all related to symptoms, which makes sense because that's what doctors can see. They can measure, they can touch it, whatever it might be. The symptoms are clearly on the outside, measurable, and then treatable. But what we often don't talk about, and what Aston and I were discussing yesterday morning, is that actually the development of disease has happened long before those symptoms showed up. So what exactly is happening in the body when it starts to break down, when mistakes in the processes start to happen, when pressure is put on the system and mistakes start to happen, things start to fail. This begins long before you actually we get our first symptoms, and then we go to the doctor. So, and many people don't. They get the symptoms like, this might go away. And then we wait until it gets much worse.
Even though it's something you never felt before in the body, you feel something and you say, oh, it's nothing, it's going to go away. And as one client said to me, my uncles and my aunts, they keep talking about they having gas in their stomach, and they're having gas pains, and they all turn up with cancer. So if the body is doing something that it wasn't doing before, something could be wrong. Something very serious could be wrong.
Yeah. And, we've seen the opposite of that, where people can be like hypochondriacs, where like every little thing they're Googling it and thinking they're dying. Certainly we're not suggesting you go to that level, but we want you to better understand what's actually happening in the body. And it's really interesting when you understand how your body works and how many chemical reactions and processes, things that have to happen to keep us alive and keep us functioning, you see the potential for any sort of pressure or stress on those systems to allow mistakes to start to happen.
Yep.
And then those pile up. So we're going to draw that picture more clearly today.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully that will motivate you to think more about those everyday decisions that we make when we're like, oh, I know this is not a healthy decision, but you know, we have this cognitive dissonance where our brain allows us to say, but you know, I can make a healthy choice later, or I'll deal with that tomorrow. I really want this now. And we're not actually thinking about the danger or the damage that that choice is causing. And there's so many reasons why, especially with marketing of junk food, things that have justified our ability to make these decisions, but I think it's easier to make healthier choices when you understand the mechanisms that you're going to be interrupting in your body.
Absolutely. We have children from 3, 4 and up with cancer who do chemo. We have girls from 8, 9 years old up to 13, 14 who have hormonal issues that are severe, and they start getting fibroids from their teenagers. So we have seen over the last 2 decades that roadmap from children to adults with the most chronic diseases in the world, and some of them died. Some children died, and young people die. And now the CDC has been reporting for the last couple of years, or since the pandemic, that there are more young people now who are dying than ever before in recorded human history. And it has to do with, a lot of it, if not all of it, has to do with what we're going to talk about today. So if you have friends and relatives who who this information might help them to understand why they have high blood pressure, why they have diabetes, why they have cancer, why they have all these issues that's never going away. And all of us know, each one of us knows somebody who has died of some disease. And if they die of a disease, they died prematurely, even if they're 80 years old. If you die of a disease, you died prematurely. Because if you didn't have that disease that killed you, you would have lived longer. So you die prematurely. Right. And that's a simple math.
Yeah. And that's death of your life. But think about how many years before that, the death of your enjoyment of life has had begun.
Quality of life.
Yeah. Because even if we can't live longer, I mean, we should at least live really great up until the end,
Yeah, live like a star.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And then just burn out in a
And somebody better ask me what it is to live like a star. Somebody better ask that question, because no one has ever asked us, what are the root causes of disease, or what is the primary? Let's limit it to one. What is the primary root cause of all diseases? And by the way, when we say these things, or I say these things, you should research it. Don't take everything we say. Although you trust us and love us, research it, because it's good for you to be sure. It's good for you to know for sure that if you're going to change certain behavior with diet and lifestyle, that is based on science, is based on something real. That's not based on magic or something imagined. And nothing we ever say here at NuSpecies is imagined. Nothing.
Sure. Right. Yeah, we're made up.
Are made up.
We are talking off the top of our heads, so there might be times where we don't get things perfectly accurately, but we'll always correct ourselves. All right, so June is guessing what that primary root cause of disease is.
Oh, June. Hi, June.
Here's her guess. Ready? She says inflammation.
That's a good guess. It is, actually. That's when we have...
Is that what you were going to say?
Well, I was going to lead to that. I was going to say...
Let's start with the lead.
The lead is...
Yes, but not exactly. We're going to go even deeper than that.
So the metabolic, and let me explain what that means, because even if you Google, metabolic, the the meanings you get may not register the way it should in the brain. So, what metabolism means is that anything that gets in our bodies, whether it's the food we eat or the food we drink, or if our pores absorb chemicals, toxins, viruses, bacteria, anything from the universe or from the environment around us, whether in our homes at work, everything that gets into our bodies has to be burned. The body has to use it. And two things happen. When the body uses it, there's waste matter. If the body burn it, let's say the body burn the virus or burn the bacteria or burn a chemical or burn a cancer cell, there's waste matter. There's carbon waste matter. And the body has to excrete it. That's the second thing. Anything that goes in, the body use it, waste matter has to be excreted. And guess what? If something gets in the body and the body can't use it, we are in trouble. So if we eat certain foods, consume certain foods, and our bodies are not able to burn it or use it or excrete it, sickness has begun. And this is how it happens. So imagine this is coffee in my mug. I have a sip of my coffee and it goes down into my stomach where it should be digested. And it's not that it doesn't get digested properly or digested at all. It seeps down in the small intestine where it should be processed. It should be catabolized, meaning that it should be burned. The body should start to use it. If my body doesn't use it, this is where metabolism comes into place. The rate, the balance of metabolism, let's say it should be like the pH level in our blood report. Let's say it should be between 5 and 8. That's what metabolism should be. But if we have something in our bodies that our bodies can't burn, let's say the waste matter, the food we eat, the virus, the bacteria, the cancer cell, our metabolism speeds up rapidly. And that is the beginning of every disease in the universe, including cancer, because now the body is burning too fast to keep up with itself. And by the way, to give you a really cool analogy, that's the way stars become supernova and they burst, they explode. It's the same process taking place in our bodies. The cells are like stars, they begin to get sick. And when they get sick, the P53, the most important gene in our bodies to regulate our immune system, regulate our cells, if it gets damaged, it's the beginning of the end, because now the body is going to get a lot of diseases, including cancer. So metabolism, anything that goes in should come out. Same thing in a star. When the star burn hydrogen, if it start burning hydrogen and keeping what is burning, let's say it's keeping too much of the lithium or beryllium or all the other chemicals, it builds up until if it doesn't get pushed out of the star core, the star explode. It's virtually the same thing that happens in our bodies. Whatever we eat has to be burned, and then the ash, the waste has to come out. Otherwise, our metabolism speeds up, and the beginning of all diseases, every single disease, there are about 10 to 20,000 that are identified in the United States. That's how they began. And if you have a genetic issue, let's say you have type 1 diabetes, or if you have sickle cell disease or any of those genetic diseases, it just caused those to get worse. So any pre-existing diseases will just start getting worse. So that is the beginning of all diseases. So when your doctors say you have high blood pressure or diabetes, they give you medication for the diabetes, which is the high glucose, right? They give you medication for the high blood pressure, which is the blood is not flowing in the blood vessels the way it should, because the blood vessels have hardened. They have lost the flexibility to receive the high oxygenated blood from the lung through the heart. The heart is pushing out, and then the blood vessels are too narrow or too hard. They're not flexible enough to receive the oxygenated blood. That's what high blood pressure is. So when you get medication for that, all the medication is trying to do is, to some extent, thin the blood and try to thin the blood vessels so the blood can flow better. But what happened before that?
Mhm.
What caused the blood vessels to be thick? What caused the high glucose in the body? Medication had nothing to do with that.
Right.
So that's why if you have a disease like blood pressure or diabetes or any disease like those, you're going to have them for life. Don't blame the doctors. Medical science has not yet progressed to the point where it can address root causes of diseases.
Right. And so just to this is worth repeating, especially if we have new listeners today, which is that we're not saying you don't take the medication or that medication is not part of the process, because it is. Certainly you don't want to be at risk of a stroke or any other severe reaction to these symptoms you're having. So once you've developed a disease, you definitely want to use all resources at your disposal. But what we're trying to explain is that
Right.
it doesn't end there. You actually have a lot of work to do on your end to help your body get back to where it was before and let your body now regulate these things again on its own.
True. So if you don't take the medication, you're going to get worse. If you don't take the metformin or whatever the medication they're giving you to regulate the glucose in the blood vessel, it's going to get worse. And I can tell you, when it comes to glucose, people who have high glucose and low insulin, or high insulin and high glucose, those are beginning causes that can lead to cancer. So take your medication. If it's making you sick, go back to your doctor and let your doctor change it. Like a lot of our clients, if you just can't take the medication because it's making you sick, as Jillian just said, then you have to find other ways to support your body to try. You have to do your best now to support your body, because you're practically on your own. Like a lot of clients who come to us with various health issues, they're on their own, and the doctor look them in the face and say, I don't know what else to do. Try this. And the doctors are, they change the dosage, they increase the dosage, they lower the dosage, or they give another medication. I have clients who are taking 4 or 5 medication for blood pressure alone. I have clients who are taking several medication for diabetes. So you think the doctors don't know what they're doing. The doctors don't have the tools that we need to support a lot of these issues. So it's not the doctor's fault. It's not the medical system's fault. It's not the pharmaceutical company's fault. The knowledge doesn't exist. And I'm going to say it again. I said it before to illustrate to you that the knowledge doesn't exist. So 95% of our universe is made up of energy, not matter. 95%. Only 5% of the whole universe. Look around you. Look at all the stars at nights. Only 5% make up our entire known universe. And guess what? For that 5%, we don't know 1%. And for the 95%, we don't know 1%. So that should tell you how much that's unknown about our bodies. And I mentioned stars. Our bodies are thousands of times more complex than a star. Believe it. Research it. So we can't blame the medical system. We can't blame the doctors. And that's why we're here talking to you now. That's why we created NuSpecies, to give people hope of living better and living longer, as Jillian said.
Right. So sum that up, that the because you talked to me about 4 separate things that cause disease, but this most fundamental one is
the trigger.
Is metabolism.
Yes, this is the trigger. So now let's get to the next one. Jillian mentioned 4.
Yeah.
So
Well,
all
I
these,
want to I don't want to get off the metabolism
I
yet.
agree. I agree. So all these systems fail when we get a disease. So the next one is the immune system.
But I'm not ready to leave metabolism
Oh,
yet.
let's go. Let's stay in
I
metabolism.
just want to make sure we put a pin in it and we make it really clear
Mhm.
that your body is performing all of these functions. It's processing. So not just the food that we put into it, but then as Aston said, when it's performing all of these processes, it's producing its own waste matter as a result of these processes. And then that all has to be cleaned out of the body. So your body is processing and excreting. And it's tremendously complex. And there's so much room for a mess to pile up,
Mhm.
which then leads us to the
Inflammation.
immune system having
Right.
to create inflammation.
And that's what
Which
June
then in
called.
itself is not a bad thing. More stuff has to happen for that inflammation to become a problem. And so this is why we were trying to break it down into these layers, because we want to show you how complicated it is and how many layers of defense your body really has against getting sick, so that once you're sick, you actually have done this to yourself for a really long time. You've actually overridden everything your body, every, defense your body has to prevent this. You have destroyed it all. Or we have, I should say we have, because we're all guilty of this. So when you go to eat something that you think, okay, well, how bad could it be? Everything in moderation is fine. It's actually, no, some things are really just going to hurt you and are going to cause a cascade of problems that your body has to deal with. And now your body's distracted from other things it would have been dealing with. And you're creating a pileup that your body can't deal with. And then you're just setting yourself up. So every time you think, oh, moderation, not a problem, you're actually creating more and more stress on the system and allowing more and more mistakes to happen, allowing more and more mess to pile up. This is all just obviously very high level. And then you're creating the environment for disease to develop or symptoms to develop. And before we move on to the immune system.
No, we should stay with metabolism because there's a lot more to it.
So what I want to say is when we think about a disease diagnosis, remember that there is all sorts of dis-ease in the body. So think of the word disease as dis, like DIS, dash ease. So like lacking ease, right? Not feeling good. There's
lacking energy.
There's so much dis-ease that are signs that the body isn't functioning optimally, that the body needs you to get out of the way and stop hurting it so that it can do what it's designed to do, which is give us beautiful life. And all of that dis-ease can eventually build up to symptoms that now a doctor can say, okay, if you have this, and this symptom, I know it has been determined that this is treatable. So we give it a name. So when these symptoms all pile up, we can now say, oh, these equal this name, which is the disease they tell you now have. And then that makes it safe as possible and legal for the doctor to treat those set of symptoms.
Yep.
But think about how many symptoms we all experience on a daily basis of dis-ease that don't add up to a clear picture that a doctor can treat. Okay, so it's like once you get to the point where the doctor is diagnosing a disease, there could still be many other things wrong with you that aren't diagnosable and treatable, but they are clear signs that something is wrong, which is why we say, when Aston says you can't blame your doctor, I mean, really, we are responsible for so much of our suffering up to the point, and like, obviously, like leaving out genetic problems and, there are many things that are not our fault, but we're talking about the majority of illness today, which is chronic disease caused by lifestyle. So we're just speaking high level about that. So much of that disease was our fault. Then it finally led to the point of having clear symptoms that a doctor can now diagnose and hopefully as safely as possible and legally treat. Okay. So that is just such a small piece of the puzzle, and it tends to be all we focus on. So the goal for today is for us to break down in far more detail and like tease out the layers of what's really happening when we are getting sick or when we're developing disease, and how much time we have to intervene and how much more we really need to focus on outside of just the disease we've been diagnosed with. Okay, so we're on metabolism. Aston, was there more you wanted to add?
Well, yes, I think since, we should just get into the details of it. So I talk about what gets in our bodies, whether we eat it or our skin or pores absorb it. So Once it gets in, if our bodies are not using it and the waste matter is not coming out, so it gets stuck in our bodies, that's the beginning of inflammation. That is inflammation because the carbon waste will start to damage cells. The foods that get stuck in there will start to damage cells because these are all chemicals. All foods are made from biochemicals. So even if it's good food that you're not digesting, it's going to pile up in the body and lead to inflammation. So now inflammation, what is inflammation? Inflammation, you can identify it by what Jillian just said. You start feeling tired. You have no diagnosis from your doctors, but you start feeling tired. You start feeling fatigued. You start feeling exhausted. You don't have, the energy you used to have. And you know something is not right. You just don't feel right. Your brain doesn't shine like a star. You don't feel that shining, in your brain where memory is good and you're processing thoughts, effectively. So the inflammation is building up. And if that's not corrected, Jillian called it, I totally agree. This is DIS dash ease, you're not feeling well. If that is not corrected, if you allow it to continue, then what's going to happen is that the inflammation will start damaging the energy centers in our cells. They're called mitochondria or ATP. Those are the batteries our bodies use to create energy to power the cell, to power all the cells, to power all the organs, to power us, to give us the energy to be alive. And once we start losing that energy, the body is getting weak and weaker. So that's one piece of it. The inflammation is building up. Now the immune system is revved up, trying to destroy the inflammation. I mentioned the metabolism speeding up. This is part of it. The immune system start creating more white blood cells that it may not even need. But then when the inflammation become chronic, this is the worst thing that happens when the inflammation becomes chronic. You look at your lab report, your blood test report, you see abnormalities. Disease is now fully forming in the body. You look at your scan, your CT, your MRI, you see abnormalities. You see all these words that the doctors are saying that are, registering abnormalities in your scans. It means that disease has formed in the body. What those diseases are, the doctors don't know until they can do biopsies or they get out their reference manual and look at the symptoms and add up the symptoms, and then they call the disease whatever they call it. But disease is now begun because of that inflammation. The inflammation is now overwhelming the body. And then it doesn't get worse. So what the body is doing now at this stage is producing a lot of cells because there's so many sick cells that the body can't get rid of, the immune system can't get rid of. And one of the major things that happens in this process with the immune system and inflammation now start blocking the white blood cells from getting to the most sick areas in our bodies. That's how our bodies work. Our bodies our hormones, which are the messengers, are going to tell our white blood cells, you should go here, go to the stomach. There's something going on there. But then if you have a lot of fecal matter in the intestine or the colon, and there is chronic inflammation somewhere in the colon that can lead to colon cancer or colon disease, whatever intestinal diseases, could be Crohn's, it could be, any of those, there are about a dozen or more intestinal colonic diseases that people get, that, the humans get. It could be any of those. Now the white blood cells are blocked because there's fecal matter or inflammation. It can't get to the site to kill the cell before the sick cell, before it starts to multiply. And when that sick cell starts to multiply out of control, the body can no longer control it because all these processes are broken down. Metabolism is broken down, digestion is broken down, the immune system is broken down, inflammation is building up. Guess what's going to happen? That sick cell does start to multiply rapidly because it's now sick, and the P53, the gene can control it because the P53 itself is sick, that is cancer. That is simply what cancer is: a cell multiplying rapidly, uncontrollably. A sick cell. That's what cancer is. And that is what all diseases are. So when anyone get tumors and cysts and lumps and bumps and fibroids and prostate issues and prostate lesions, and you look at your lab and you said, oh, there is degenerative tissue in the spine or the bone or the brain, anywhere, any organ, the body now has sick cells that are multiplying rapidly because the proteins are damaged. The proteins being created by the ribosomes. I looked it up. Ribosomes are what work with our RNA or our genes, our DNA, and it gets instruction as how to make proteins. That's, let's say, for the colon. So now the ribosome is making proteins for the colon, and the proteins are not folding properly. And that's what they call lesions. That's what they call tumors. That's what they call cysts. That's what they call lumps that can lead to cancer. So, yes, June, metabolism dysregulation or poor regulation or poor balance of our metabolism leads to chronic inflammation. And once the body gets any form of inflammation, especially if it's chronic means the body can't fight it anymore. It's overwhelming the body. That's what chronic means. The body is now incapable of fighting it off, of getting rid of it. That's chronic. And once you get to that stage, the body is in a position now to have any disease, including cancer. And that's what happens. And that goes for every disease known to humankind. And a lot of it can be prevented by us.
And the good news is reversed by us. So the reason why it's important we understand these layers of what's happening in our body is because when we start the process of trying to eat healthier, to exercise, to sleep more, to drink more water, to manage our stress through meditation or prayer, it's a slow unraveling of layers and layers of a mess.
Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Think about, like, if there's a big pileup accident on the highway. First the emergency responders have to get there. Then, anybody injured has to be removed from the scene. Then everything has to be moved out of the way. Then traffic that's piled up for 2 hours now has to drive past. And as everyone drives past, they all need to look to see what happens. So then it takes forever for that to clear. Then eventually everything gets moved away. Thinking about all those pieces that have to actually resolve, it takes time. And so especially when folks start using NuSpecies formulas, it's not like magically everything that has happened in this pileup is going to disappear. And so you're still going to see lots of different ups and downs throughout your journey with us, which is why we have our consulting practice, because there's so much to consider. It's why Aston is always.
And that's why we have all these formulas. So when we create a package for you or a protocol for you, you don't know, but we are thinking about all these systems in your body that failed, and they have to be addressed for you to get past the issue you have, or you to start feeling better, getting better. All those issues have to be addressed. So when you see we recommend a protocol for you and it has one or two or more formulas in there, is because of the chronic nature of the issues in your bodies that you don't know about, that your doctors don't know about or will not tell you because they don't have time to tell you. I'm sure they know.
And it's just not relevant to what they're doing for
Exactly. They're looking at the symptom. They're looking at the blood pressure or the blood sugar.
They're buying you time. They're saving your life.
Right. They're not going to go in the pancreas. So let me see what these beta cells are doing. Let me see what the chronic inflammation that are turning off the beta cells. Let me see what P53, the one gene that is the guardian of our DNA, of our genome, Let me see what it's doing, because it's not functioning clearly. That's why this person has cancer. That's why this person have all these issues. Let me see what P53 is doing. The doctors are not going to do that. And even if they find P53 that is mutated, even if they find that gene that is mutated in their testing,
Right.
they have nothing to fix it.
Right.
Only our bodies can fix it.
It makes me think about my mom's situation, because they actually did identify that as one of the mutations that caused her cancer, is like influencing her cancer. And she just kept saying, like, with every treatment that they wanted to recommend, she kept saying, well, is this going to repair my P53? How does this impact the P53? And they would just kind of look at her and answer by just navigating away from that, because they don't have anything specific to say to that. And I keep saying to her, but mom, that's part of your journey. That's what you need to get your body to fix. That's what we're doing on the outside of your medical treatment.
Even if they had some gene therapy for P53, which doesn't exist, but let's say they have it. They have a gene therapy to regulate the P53 gene, or any gene for the matter, because our bodies could be having chronic inflammation. The gene therapy will not work. All that stuff we just talked about with metabolism and inflammation and chronic inflammation, those have to be fixed first. And if there are other disease conditions with the immune system, with enzymes, with proteins like I just mentioned, dysregulated proteins, they're folding improperly, all those have to be fixed first. So for P53 to resurrect itself, if it can, if the body becomes strong enough, all those systems, there are probably 10 or 15 different systems that I know of, they have to be fixed. So if you wonder why the pharmaceutical companies or medical science just can't create a drug to regulate mutations in genes, is because the science doesn't exist. The knowledge doesn't exist to do that.
And even if it did, I don't even
But
know.
our bodies can do it.
And even if it did, I don't even think, right, because our bodies can do it. And the thing is, it's like the actions that we take to correct that one thing we're focusing on actually have a domino effect across our whole body and all of our systems. So when we take these very simple actions that are not sexy, they're not exciting, they're not like gonna make us, want to wake up in the morning, which is eating healthy and drinking water and managing stress and getting sleep. Moving our bodies. We don't want to do any of these things. We're always searching this, social media for the next like silver bullet thing or the exciting thing, or maybe someone found a pill I can take, or, now with all the weight loss drugs, it's like this shortcut that, some people life threatening really do need. But the thing is having the silver bullet, even if, there was like a medication that could just target that one gene and do something to it, for the most part, okay, that could help some people. And maybe it is the key that some people would need to get things going. But when we actually take these far simpler actions, they're simple but hard, and we do them on a regular basis, we're going to do way more than just target that one little gene. We're going to see, a blossoming of all of our body systems, and we're going to get, tenfold, 100-fold, 1,000-fold of benefits to our health than when we try to just target one little thing at a time. And this is what I was talking about in our email, is like we're always chasing the solution that seems just out of reach. We're trained to think about our body down to these tiny chemical reactions. Nutrition, we're thinking about it down to every little enzyme, to the point where we're literally like buying enzymes off the shelf that who even knows how they're going to be useful if they're not like raw, and they've been reverse engineered out of nature and probably created in a lab. We're always looking for that silver bullet. And yes, sometimes there are therapies, there are remedies, there are things that can mitigate symptoms, that can speed things up, that can help us along, but they're not looking at the bigger picture, which should be our focus on a daily basis. And that's really where NuSpecies expertise and mission comes into play, is that there will forever be companies and products and medical treatments popping up that are going to target one thing. And they might be great at it, and you might need that sometimes. But what NuSpecies wants to keep encouraging is to forget that that's not the whole picture. That's not the end of the story, that there's so much more. And if you, on a daily basis, are focused on the bigger things, the actions that have far greater impacts, you are going to depend way less on all of those sorts of targeted things that can have side effects, that may not work long term, that don't cover everything, that will still, you'll still need them as other problems start to develop and take over. So that is why we're encouraging you to see how the body breaks down, how your daily decisions allow that to happen, and how you can avoid all of this remedying and treatments and interventions. Not completely. There's always going to be something that needs to be dealt with, but for the most part, we can avoid all that chaos if we just focus on these simple actions we need to take every single day. And we will never stop preaching this.
Right. So everything we have
And
said.
lastly, it's why our supplements, it's why our herbal formulas, it's why our whole food supplements are designed the way they are. It can be tempting for us to try to go out and sell you all your vitamins and minerals separately because that's what you're asking for. It could be tempting to try to just sell you a whole bunch of different like herbs individually because that's what you're asking for. Instead, we spend the time re-educating and telling you that's just not what we do, because you need multiple herbs, you need formulations, you need a huge diversity of overlapping nutrients that are provided by these plants. They need to be raw. Ideally, they need to be liquid as often as possible so that your body can easily process it. Think of all the struggles, as we just explained, with just metabolism and inflammation, the immune system. We haven't even gotten to the other two yet. Just those alone, think of all the trouble your body's dealing with. Why would we add more trouble by putting some tablet in there that your body can't break down and then say, here, fix yourself? No, we're going to keep it liquid. We're going to keep it raw. We're going to keep it natural so your body can just easily assimilate it and start benefiting from the nutrients. I think that's all I wanted to say there.
Well, that was great. So,
okay. Oh, clip that. I have to say that so our software will pull that clip for me.
So if the digestive system is broken down and the metabolic system is broken down, it's the beginning of the end of health, of a healthy body. And it's the beginning of one thing, disease. So one thing ends and the other begins. The cycle begins. So you go from a healthy body to a diseased body because of chronic inflammation or inflammation, and because the digestive system and the metabolic system is broken down. So all formulas at NuSpecies are designed to help to correct the systems that are destroyed, the root causes that are causing the disease. And that's why we don't focus on diabetes. Diabetes is simply the blood glucose too high in the bloodstream. That's what you know as diabetes. We know diabetes as insulin problem because of a beta cell issue, because of chronic inflammation, because the genes start to malfunction, because the immune system was too weak to fix whatever was going on. And we could stretch that out for miles. All the things that went wrong, including the next one we're going to talk about is the mitochondria, which is the.
Sorry, I'm going to interrupt. I know we have two more, but it is 10:47, and we do have two questions that came in that I want to make sure we get to. So we might have to do the next two
next week. Okay.
Yeah. But just quickly say what they are. So there's, you said mitochondria?
Mitochondria,
and
we're going to talk more about the ribosome and the DNA.
Okay.
How the mutation, how it takes place and how it can be avoided.
We're gonna have to get to that next week. And we can also do a condensed version of this and just post a video out there so you have something to refer to easily and that you can share with others. All right, so I want to get to the first question came in from, so Ricardo, we answered your question. I hope that makes sense. If you want us to follow up with more information about that, let us know. All right, but next I have got Agnes. So Agnes is asking about, so she's talking about her labs. There's two separate readings on, she would like to know what they mean. So her alkaline phosphatase is high. And she also has high mean platelet volume.
Right. So we could, let's use those Maybe we should have, these 5 or so things that we talk about and use them to frame every issue, every question, you have, because you can frame every health condition, every abnormality in the lab or CT or MRI can be framed in those 5 major things. There are other things that fail, but those are the 5 major ones that you all just need to know about. And if you're working to fix those, you're going to be in really good shape to have better health and longer life. So the alkaline phosphatase, it refers to an enzyme that's in the liver that is abnormal. If it's too low, there's a problem. If it's too high, there's a problem. It's an enzyme that our body uses to regulate, inflammation. Say if the alkaline phosphatase is too high, it means that the liver is toxic. It means that there's a lot of inflammation. Speaking of inflammation in the liver, it means that there are metabolic issues because the liver is the number one organ in the body for metabolism. Number one. No other organ is even close. The next one is the pancreas and then the thyroid when it comes to metabolism. So it means that there's something wrong with the liver, and that could relate back to platelets. So we talk about next week when we talk about ribosome, which is another system in the body that makes proteins. We're going to talk about how ribosomes start making more cells, whether it's red blood cells or white blood cells or platelets, which are cells, but they're different type of cells. So if your platelets are high, it means that you could have an infection or you have chronic inflammation. It's one or both, but usually you can use inflammation or chronic inflammation to address infection, because infections in the end they cause inflammation. So infection means there's a virus, there's a bacteria, there's a parasite, there's something going on, some creature in there that's destroying cells, destroying tissues in cells, destroying genes or DNA, causing the infection and affecting the immune system. The immune system now creates more inflammation to kill whatever is going on. So we could say inflammation covers infection. So the platelets are high, there's something going on there with chronic inflammation. So any cell in your lab report, look at your CBCs where your platelets are. You see anything there that is high or it's too low, it means that there's chronic inflammation affecting the cardiovascular system. And in this case, the blood circulation system, which is the red blood cells and white blood cells.
Now Agnes didn't say exactly how high they are, but if these were just like mildly high, would that be something a doctor would say, "Oh, that's like not there's nothing to talk about there."
The doctors are not going to mention your platelets. So you have the regular platelets, and then you have the mean platelets volume. So you have two sets of platelets. So when they get too low, that's when the doctors will rate it as a problem. Because if it gets too low, you get a cut or something. You may just lose more blood or bleed out. Hopefully, that won't happen. But if someone has low platelets, but you could lose more blood. And if it's too high, it usually indicate that there's chronic inflammation or infection that's causing it. So the doctors may mention it, but if you have an infection and your platelets are high, the doctors probably won't say anything because they know what's causing it. And if they can control the infection, they will be able to get the platelets down.
Mm. So if it's just like mildly high, maybe her doctor hasn't actually addressed this or doesn't think anything's wrong yet.
The doctors know something is wrong, but if it's mildly high, anything in our bodies that's mildly high, that's why the diabetes, if the A1C is 6 or 6.2, the doctors say, "Oh, you don't have diabetes yet, so we're just going to watch it." So anything that is mildly high can go back to normal the next lab 3 months or 6 months later. So the doctors typically won't say anything unless they can make a diagnosis that there is in fact a disease that's causing it to be high or low, mildly high or mildly low.
And the same thing for the alkaline phosphatase.
So the alkaline phosphatase should be a concern. The doctor should be concerned about that because the liver, life. So anything regarding the liver, the doctor should be all over it to make sure it doesn't get worse. Yeah, because we mentioned metabolism and digestion. When the liver is off, it means that you have evidence that the liver is off, the alkaline phosphatase or the AST or ALT, any of those that are higher, too high or too low. It means that the body is not going to properly digest any food. The body is not going to properly metabolize any food. To put things in context now, because the liver is the processor. It processes everything that goes in our bodies.
I'm just posting to Agnes to, if she wants to speak in more detail about this, to send us her labs and give us a call.
Yeah.
And the team will, if you call a new species at any time, as long as Aston's available, the team will just conference you in and we'll just try to address your question immediately. There's no waiting on appointments or anything like that. All right. We have time for one more question. A third one did come in from Healthy Living Zone. I do see your question there. We might not get to it. I'm sorry. But hopefully you'll join us next week. I'm assuming also you're just asking what this means because I see you listed a few readings from your labs. But if you have a more specific question about that, let us know. And again, you're welcome to call as well, and you could send your labs in. Okay, so the second question came from Miss Kenya. Let's see here. Where's my girl? Here she is. Okay. She says, I have no energy. My metabolism is low, and I eat way too much. I want to eat less and have more energy. I did follow up to see if she wanted to provide any more detail, but I don't think she saw my question yet. So I guess we can address this generally. I asked if there was any pre-existing, if she has other health conditions, if she's on medications, because all of these things can affect your energy, weight
Right.
gain,
For
medications can cause weight gain. So
Mhm.
appetite issues.
Right. For ladies, I can tell you what I've seen over almost 3 decades of doing this with ladies. Usually, when ladies are overweight, it's almost always related to hormones, hormonal imbalance of some kind. So you could even look at your labs, and all your hormones are fine, but you still could have hormonal imbalance, because when you look at the lab, the measurements you see there, there's statistical, which means that they don't apply to everybody. So they're hoping that you fall in that range for it to be high or low. But if you're eating too much, it means that your metabolism is pretty high and you're not giving the body what it really needs. So maybe the foods you're eating are not nourishing enough, and the body just keep calling for more. That's the way our digestive system work. But it could be hormonal. So if you have fibroids, if you have ovarian cysts, if you have any issues like those, it could be related to that. If you're anemic, it could be related to that. And the whole overweight thing comes into place where the body starts to start making too much cells, because the digestive and metabolic processes are off. And so it speeds up. That's what happens when they're off. It speeds up and start making more things that it shouldn't be making more blood, making more white blood cells, making more enzymes. And that's why the alkaline phosphatase is too high, because the body is compensating against something and is making too much of one thing, like the alkaline phosphatase we just mentioned. So if you're overweight, it's the same thing. The body is making too many cells, too many fat cells. And hopefully you can correct that using our detox system with the bee pollen, and I would say the probiotic that can help to slow down the processing, because there's inflammation causing the body to be speeding up, right? So maybe the detox system with the bee pollen for digestion and the probiotics for the gut will help to slow down the metabolic rate. And this goes for everybody who's listening. Everything I just said goes for whether you think you're healthy or not. It goes for you. If you start seeing these things happen, you know now that your body is burning too fast. And by the way, when our bodies burn too fast and cause stress, it also causes premature aging and premature death. Just so you know. And next week we're going to add that into our discussion.
I would say, what about the B vitamins? Just the multivitamin, because of can help with energy in the meantime while the body
Absolutely.
is not. Yeah. So
Absolutely.
so Kenya, the multivitamin is really excellent because ours is raw and it has the whole B complex, um, including vitamin C, which is great for repair of damaged tissues, and then the alfalfa, which just has a whole host of vitamins and minerals. So the multivitamin is an excellent formula because you should feel a good energy boost from it, and it's a great. I mean, you should take it every single day. just because vitamins are heat sensitive. So when you cook, even if you're eating healthy foods, you're deactivating or damaging the vitamins. So our multivitamin is raw and the vitamins are not damaged. So it's a great thing to keep in your diet every day. But until you're able to figure out what constellation of things are happening in your body that need to be regulated, this could help boost energy in the meantime. I know I really do depend on NuSpecies formulas. I do the detox and the probiotic. I mix those together every single day, just while I'm figuring out the reasons why I overeat. I depend greatly on the detox with the probiotic on a daily basis to make sure that my digestion is staying regulated, to keep, gas or bloating down, to overall feel more energy, because when digestion is not working properly, that's going to really suck your energy. If you've ever had just a gas pain or a stomach ache, like you feel like you could just fall asleep because it's so taxing on your energy. So I depend on that. I also am always using an L-New formula, which has the multivitamin formulation in it. So if you're taking, we've changed it to be called Body Systems now. So our Body Systems formula, previously known as L-New, has the multivitamin formulation built into it. So you don't need to take both in most cases. So I'm always using that just because I need that extra boost. But I can also say that something that really helps with my energy is just eating as many vegetables as possible. So rather than focusing on trying to eat less, because when we've been overeating for many years, there's psychological impacts, there's emotional impacts of that. And it sounds simple enough to just eat less, but anyone who doesn't have this problem doesn't understand that it's extremely difficult to eat less. So for me, rather than focusing on eating less, I focus on making sure that when I am eating, I'm eating a lot of vegetables. There isn't a meal where I'm like, how am I going to get color into this meal? Where are the vegetables coming from? And I find my body just is just so much more relaxed and functions better when I'm eating a lot of vegetables. Um, there's not enough time now to explain the amazing cascade of health benefits from eating a lot of vegetables, like 90% of your diet being plants. So when I say vegetables, I really just mean plants. So that can be fruit, vegetables, whole grains, seeds, nuts, beans, legumes, seaweed, things like this. Fermented foods like sauerkraut, kimchi. There, there's a book called Fiber Fueled that you might want to look it up by Dr. Will Bolsowitz. He's a gastroenterologist, and he explains in an entire book the insane health benefits of eating like 90% plants. So I think that you will find between really high quality supplements like ours and eating a lot of plants, you're going to start to weed out a lot of factors as you maybe get labs done and you start to figure out what else might be going on that's eroding your health. I think that's a good place to start.
Yep.
Clip that. Oh my gosh. Okay. Will you come cook for me, Jillian? June, I'm going to tell you, my dear, I have a few things that I do make really well, but I am still not a good cook, and my kids will attest to that. This has been my New Year's resolution for the last 3 years, is to learn how to cook. I think I'm officially up to at least 7 meals that I could repeat every week. But cooking comes with like inventory management, which is like another whole thing. It's just so hard. So, but I'll certainly share on our social anything that I do make that I think is great, and I will keep you informed. All right. So the last question, it's not even a question. I think the person is just asking, like, what does this mean? So maybe there's a quick summary you could give, or a set of questions you could give them to think about, and then we could end the show. So this one says, from Healthy Living Zone, my lipoprotein is 274.
Mm-hmm.
I put it on the screen too, so you don't have to memorize this. My my A1C is 6,
Mm-hmm.
and my HDL is 171.
So you're falling into the quintessential metabolic problem or issue, because the 4 markers that easily, there are more, but the 4 that easily indicate to everyone that there's a metabolic imbalance One is high blood pressure, one is high blood glucose, another is high cholesterol, and the third is excess weight or excess fat. So what that means, what those mean, um, for your question is that your body is making too much cholesterol, your body is making too much glucose, so there is definitively a metabolic imbalance that you need to correct, and you can correct it with good diet and good lifestyle. Lifestyle mean exercising and maybe 3 4 times a week. That will help to limit the damage to your body. But then the underlying systems, now the digestive system, the metabolic systems, the immune systems, all those things we mentioned earlier, you have to repair them because those are damaged already. So you can get, maybe ORL new, or get any of ORL new with our detox system and take those with a good lifestyle, good diet. We also have a new life 2-pager, that it's a guide for what to eat, what not to eat. I think if you get those formulas and get the new life and just stay in them, do the diet and lifestyle, I think your cholesterol will go back down. But then you have to stay in those to fix the systems that were broken, because not because the cholesterol is gone back to the normal range. The total is less than 200 and the LDL is 100 or less and the HDL is 40 or so. It doesn't mean that the systems that are broken, it doesn't mean they're fixed because the cholesterol is no longer high, because the glucose is no longer high. What we have seen with people over the years, the A1C will go back to normal, the cholesterol will go back to normal, the blood pressure will go back to normal, and immediately they stop doing what they were doing, and those issues come back because the foundational systems that we just talked about for the past hour, they weren't properly repaired. So those systems have to be fixed for anyone to say, I don't have this issue anymore. I don't have diabetes anymore. I don't have high blood pressure, high cholesterol, cancer, whatever it is. I don't have it anymore. Those foundational systems have to be fixed. But it's a good start to get those numbers back to normal, even if those systems are not fully repaired.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's completely possible. We see it every day, all the time. And certainly, if you want to add in new species formulas to help your body along, that's what we're here for. And you can call us anytime. You can go to the website and buy whatever you want. But if you call us at any time, the team will conference in Aston and he will help you get started.
Mhm.
All right.
But I want to say one thing, though,
Sure.
to try to summarize, the formulas we have, because a lot of you have asked me over the years and even more recently, why do I have to get 4 things or 5 things?
Mhm.
I hope, if you heard this entire presentation, which we probably should replay, at some point in the future, that's why one formula can't do it, because we're just fixing one thing. And if you want all the things to go away, you have to fix all those things. And the last thing I want to say to all my friends out there, all over the, new species, all over the world, who are telling me they're doing their local remedies and all of that. And family members are telling me about their relatives and friends who are doing local remedies and they just die. It breaks my heart every time I hear it, because you now know that, yes, the Guinean wheat is good and it can help the prostate. Yes, the soursop is good and it can help the immune system to fight cancer. Yes, all these, her moringa is good because it's very good nutrition. All these herbs are good. But when the disease is formed, all those systems in the body that have failed, they have to be repaired. They're not going to go away because they failed. They're not going to just go away
Right.
because they failed, and they have to be fixed.
And usually that's far beyond just one herb or one remedy. You really do need to hit it with a whole buffet of options for your body, because in the end only your body actually knows what it needs to do to fix itself. And so for you to play scientist on the outside and say, well, I'm going to do, 100 milligrams of this nutrient and I'm going to just take this much of moringa. I mean, you're really just making it up. and leaving it up to chance, your body knows what it needs to do. Give your body the buffet and let it decide. And that's really where our formulas, why they're so powerful, why we layer them, and that's where we see the best results. Having said that, doing nothing is not an option, which is why
Right.
we have a lot of really budget-friendly options so that you can be giving your body some sort of tool to work with on a daily basis until you have the money to upgrade, but you should never be doing nothing. And we also support when it comes to lifestyle guidance as well as stress management. We didn't even get into the impacts of stress,
Oh
emotional
boy.
stress on all those systems and how that makes it even worse. There's so much there.
I think next week we should
Um,
probably spend that whole segment on stress alone, because I think that most people on the earth, I don't care how educated they are, they truly don't know what stress is and the impacts physically it has on the whole body.
Mhm.
I think most people don't know. And I'm
Mhm.
saying most people because I have a lot of relatives, family members who are very educated, but they don't know a thing when it comes to health.
Mhm.
They know nothing, even with their PhDs. So
Ricardo
I'm
says,
gonna say that goes for most people out there. I'm generalizing now, so I don't know for sure. I didn't look at statistics. I didn't do research,
Mhm.
but I do believe that most people really don't know what stress it really is. Yes,
Mhm.
Ricardo.
Ricardo says prevention, and I'm assuming he's asking about those individual herbs as part of prevention. Absolutely. Most people, though, have limited budget and they have limited patience and time to be tinkering with, 50 different bottles of things. And that's why we try to just simplify it and give you what we know to be most powerful right off the bat. So you don't have to be experimenting and doing all these different things where you're not even sure how much it's helping or not. Um,
But Ricardo is
mhm,
you're making a really good point there, and the broader context of your point is the people I'm talking about who are taking all these herbs, whether it's a mixture of different herbs or one or two or whatever. These are not people who are trying to prevent.
yes, they're trying to
These are
cure.
people who are already sick. They're diagnosed with blood pressure, cancer, whatever they have, prostate cancer, and they're trying to fix. That is not prevention. Yes, if they were doing all these things way back years before, probably they would be in better shape. I'm sure their bodies would be in better shape. But once the body has failed and a disease has formed, that is the problem.
Right. And it's not to say that there aren't people out there who maybe do these things and get great results, but we're focusing on what's going to work for the majority of people. And we can't just focus on these one-time amazing stories. Even when we have amazing stories from clients, we still aren't like, great, this is going to happen for everyone because the body is doing the work, right? Our formulas are the tool. We are the guides through this journey, but everyone's body's going to react differently. And that's really where like playing scientist comes into play. Whereas like June says, I'm always trying to play scientist. We all are because we go into a health food store, every vitamin and mineral is being sold individually or in different combinations, and you have no idea what's the difference. Who knows what they're doing? And we're all well intentioned trying to take care of ourselves, but we really are just making it up because we've been left to that. And then maybe we have a great nutritional provider, nutritionist or herbalist or doctor in our lives who's saying, hey, you need to take 250 milligrams of this and 400 milligrams of that and 10,000 IUs of this. And they're giving you the information. So now they are the ones who have the knowledge of what they believe you need. So, but now you're dutifully following those instructions, but then you're going to a shelf, you're buying a product that is those correct doses,
Mhm.
but the product has the name of the nutrient you think you are told you need, but then the end result is that it's an ineffective product because let's say it's vitamins and it's been processed with heat or it's just been made in a lab. Those vitamins are useless to your body. End of story. So you might have the right dose, you might have the right nutrient, but now you don't have the right delivery system. So we get tripped up at so many stages of this, and New Species has eliminated that whole first section of experimenting. We've eliminated that.
We've done all the work.
Asin's designed the formulas, we make them the right way.
Mhm.
The delivery system is ideal. So now the real experimenting comes in with what is your body doing? once you start using the formulas, and this is where our consulting comes in, why Aston wants to see your labs, is because once the formulas get into your body, we're now going to let your body show us what can it do?
Hmm.
What can it do? Where is it struggling? And then the real journey begins. But it only starts once you have the right product, the right nutrients, the right delivery system, and we see what your body can do. It's why we don't waste time isolating all the different nutrients. That's not how the body works. That's not how our bodies were intended to interact with our habitat and the foods provided by God in the universe for us. And so we cut out all of that experimental stuff and we get you to a good starting point, and then the real work begins. Being a scientist for yourself really begins, because now as a scientist, you're going to have an open mind and you're going to say, okay, let's see what my body has to show me. What is changing? What isn't changing? Why? Is there something else I'm doing that could be inhibiting my results? Maybe Aston needs to know this, and that. Maybe Aston needs to change my dose or switch out a product. That's when the real work begins, but not until you're starting with the right products.
Yep. We need your labs. We need to know what your doctors are saying.
And I'm going to ask our software to clip that.
Okay.
The reason I keep doing this, and it's so weird, I wish I could find a more natural way to put it in there, is because we are trying to post more useful information for you to share with others, or to revisit yourself on our YouTube channel. And I'm making my meager attempts to get engaged on social media. So if you're not yet following us on like Facebook or Twitter, not Twitter, we don't use that. Facebook, this is how long it's been since I've said any of these things. Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, maybe we'll attempt the Tickety Talk at some point, but start following us there. We want to follow you back. We want to be more engaged with you on social media, just in a conversational way. We'll post a lot of these clips there so that you can share them. You can be reminded of things that, like June said, she has to come back to this session every Saturday to be reminded, because it's so easy to forget all these things. Life is made so complicated. Humans have done such a good job of complicating everything. And so you need to hear this over and over again. And we want to be able to repost these clips in convenient places for you.
Hope you find this helpful, and we're going to pick up on it next week. I think we should focus on the next the one or two we have left, and drill down hard, in detail, so people can taste what's going on in their bodies, when they'll know. You all want to be scientists. Well, you're all becoming scientists by just listening to this program. So,
and I see there are dozens of folks listening right now. And I'm going to say, Mary just shared the link to our new Facebook page. We lost access to our original one. We spent a very frustrating period of time trying to recover it. I just created a new page. What this means is we need you to go there and follow us. And if you can please, if every single one of you leave us a review, it will be amazing. I'm not telling you how to review us. I'm just saying, please review NuSpecies, because then I can I can see who you are, and I will send you your own custom discount code for 20% off. And I'll give you a few weeks to use it. So please go to our new Facebook page, go to the review section. Don't just reply to a post. Go to the actual review section and leave us a review. Just say something, that's true for you about your experience with NuSpecies. And
awesome.
I will send you a 20% discount code, okay?
Awesome.
All right. The last thing I will share for those who may just be interested in something completely unrelated with NuSpecies is that as of this week, I'm going to be donating my hair.
Okay.
Mary's clapping for me. So there's an organization called Children with Hair Loss, and they make wigs for children who have no hair, and they don't charge the families for the wigs, which I love that the most. And so I'm going to be giving this whole bottom portion of my hair to make a nice wig for a child who needs it. So I'll be doing that on Wednesday.
So a child there is going to be very happy. Wonderful.
Yes. And what's actually interesting is this right here, this part of my hair, okay? This is COVID hair right here. Lived through the pandemic and has grown to see a better day, and now will be given to someone else.
Yeah, I would say that's NuSpecies hair.
Yes, there's a NuSpecies hair. I actually do cut an inch every 3 months, and it has still grown to this length. Now, I don't color my hair. I don't process it with heat. Genetically, like my mom had hair like this, so I have some advantages going for me, but the pure growth of it is definitely a NuSpecian help.
So I'm
For
going to
sure.
disclaim this now. So I did say it's NuSpecies here. I am not saying that everyone who takes NuSpecies, including men, are going to get their hair as long as that.
Because as you can see, it hasn't worked for Ashton.
For the ladies, you have a chance, ladies, but for the guys, we don't have a hair growth. It's on the drawing board, guys.
Believe it or not, though, a lot of women who use our formulas just for any other thing, if they're using body systems, usually along with like bee pollen, vitamin D, just giving their body a lot of nutrition, especially amino acids, which are built into the nature of our raw whole food products. Your body uses amino acids to synthesize protein. Protein is what your hair is made of, your nails. Collagen, elastin, all of these things that we relate with beauty and youthfulness. You don't need to eat protein. You need to consume amino acids from plants for your body to synthesize protein. And that is what contributes to these sorts of, beauty results that a lot of women are looking for. So a lot of women will actually report to us that their hair is growing or growing faster or growing back, especially women dealing with bald spots from a lot of, maybe difficult hair treatments for many years. They'll send us pictures of before and after, and they're shocked at how much their hair is growing back. So that is a really common side effect of just really powerful raw nutrition like you get with NuSpecies formulas.
I think we should continue that this next week as well. So tune in next week. Get family and friends to join. We have a lot to talk about. We run over 20 minutes, and I guess we're having too much fun here.
Well, we haven't been live in a few weeks, so we got a lot to say. Anyway, we are so happy to be here with you. Thank you so much for your beautiful interactions. Please subscribe before you go. And if you can, link over to our new Facebook page and leave us a review there. Or if you don't use Facebook, it's fine. Just hit us up on Instagram. And if you use LinkedIn, we'd love to follow you there as well.
And have yourself a great weekend. And see you next week again. All right. Bye-bye.